Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. This is Joel Amer with Inflatable Office and Event Office. Today we're doing some advanced user training. We're going to go over reports and filtering, advanced pricing on your inventory, a new feature we've added called automations, and damage waivers. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them on the comments and I will try to answer them as we go along. And yeah, and if you're watching a recording of this, you can still leave your comments and we'll try to get to those as well. So also, since we're going over advanced training today, if you haven't seen the last video, it's basic user training, you'll want to watch that as well because we're going to skip over some stuff. And if you don't know the basics, then the advanced stuff is kind of going to be pointless. So the basic one went over things like how to work with leads, send out emails and contracts, and make sure your quoting system is working properly. So I'll post that one here in the comments in a little bit, and you can take a look at that when you get a chance. Give me 1 second here to make sure I get everything set up. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, so when you log in, this should be the first thing you see. Again, on the left side over here is the sidebar where you can do additional filtering, as well as when you're working on a lead, you can use this to quickly scroll to the part of the lead you want. So if I want to look at the customer details, I can just click on it, or I can use scroll from here. So either way. Stuff like that is going to be covered over the basic video, which I just linked. All right, so I'm going to start with going over reports today. And so reports are just another way you can view the data here, as well as print it and look at it. So you'll be able to get the list here. We may have a couple already in your account for you. If you want to make your own, you can come over to settings and go to reports. I have one here called balance due. I'll work with this one here, but if I was missing some of these things, you just simply add them by typing in here. So lead total, we want to make sure that's in there. Lead dollar total. Balance due. Any other field you want, they're all listed here. So you can see there's a lot of information. So you can do it however you want. And if you want to reorder them so they're in a different order, that's what these buttons here are for. Okay, and you can share the reports with other workers. So if everyone wants to see it. Now, so this will allow you to change that view here, and you'll see the columns will change. If you want that to always be the view whenever you're working with leads, you can go over to your worker profiles. So over here, we'll say for Lazy Joe, and down here we can say default lead report. So I can change it to that balance due one I made, and then whenever they're using the system, it'll automatically switch over to that report. Same thing here if we print. So if we want to print this list or something and you want to have different columns there, you can set the report first, and then you can use the print tool, and it will allow you to see those different columns in it. So from here, this is where you can control what information you want to see. And so yeah, so that's the basics of the reports. Filters are a huge part of our system as well, and you can do basic filtering over here on the left. So if we want to filter by somebody's name, you just simply start typing it in. So like Bill Winters, start typing it, and you'll see it's already filtered the list here. If you want to add additional filters, you can click on whatever you want to filter by, and then you can add the next thing, like say a date range. So let's say if we want to say the date range is in the next 30 days. Right now we've got 2 filters applied. So it got rid of it because it's probably farther out than that. So if you want to filter by event date, book date, create date, that's what these are all for. You can filter by a bunch of different dates. if you want. And then you can say if it's just a fixed range or whether it's in the past or like say the next 30 days or, you know, so there's a bunch of options here. Now, this filtering is a bit limited, so I can't filter by things like total or due date, due amount here. If I want to filter by those things, you have to come over and actually create a filter under settings. So let's say, for example, I want to filter by everybody that's still owes money. So you could say, all right, balance due is greater than $0. Call this balance due. And let's also say that it's a completed event because we don't want to have quotes in here. Complete. And then also if you wanted to make sure it was in the past, or it depends on what you're doing. If you want to, let's delete start date. If we want to say in the next, you know, like 10 days, you could do that, or you could say in the last 10 days, depending on what you're trying to do here. We'll say for this example, we'll just say for the next 50 days. I got a mistake here. All right, so anyway, we can save this filter here, and then you can also apply that filter to that report. If you're always running that same report with a certain filter, you can do that down here by then running it like that. And then whenever I run that filter or run that report, it'll also add that filter over here on the left. So those filters that you create or anything like that, you don't have to search by them. You just scroll down this list and you'll be able to see any of these filters here. So this one here, I got events in the past year, and so it'll automatically filter by that. So as you can see, you can set up any type of view that you want, a report that you want. You can have all kinds of advanced filters to do all kinds of crazy things. So the goal is that you'll have kind of your standard operating procedures that you use on a daily or weekly basis. So you'll set all those reports and those filters up, and then you can share them with your employees so that, you know, you say, hey, just run through these reports on a weekly basis. You know, this is part of your regular jobs to make sure everybody that we still need to collect money from, you can do that. So obviously we've got all kinds of automated emails and stuff that go out to remind people to pay and stuff like that, but sometimes you have to call them too. Okay, I'm gonna see here if you have any questions, like I said, just post them. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep moving on. Another one that people like to do, this is part of the setup process, but inventory pricing. So there's all kinds of ways to price your items. Some people will charge by the day or every 4 hours, or a 4-hour price and an 8-hour price, etc. So go to the pricing part here. This is where you can control that. You want to make sure that you're not just putting 0 in. Sometimes I'll see people put 0 in. And the idea of the pricing here is so that you can say whether they're renting for 2 hours or 20 hours or 3 days, you've got the pricing organized so it'll price correctly based on how you'd want to charge in those scenarios. And then you don't have to worry about, you know, telling people, well, you know, we don't rent it for 3 days. Well, if they really want it for 3 days, what would you charge them? You know, you might want to just think through those options. So the idea here is that you'll just kind of run through this like a phrase here. Let's say it's going to be $50 until 2 hours. And then after 2, it's going to be $150. And you can say every 2 hours or whatever strain combination you decide you want to price it at. This should be able to handle almost all of those. And so a more common scenario would be like $400 till 4 hours. Then after 4 hours, the price is going to be, say, $600 until 8 hours. And then after that, we're going to say it's going to be, you know, $800 every day. So something like that you can use. We also have this show conditional pricing option here. This will let you price either by day of the week. So you can say, well, for Monday, I want to charge this price. And then on a different day, I want to charge a different price. So a lot of times what people do is you'll set up a Monday price and you'll set up a Friday price, and you'll have a weekday and a weekend pricing. You can also price by customer type. Again, customer types you can customize, whether you want to have schools in here or HOAs. And if you want to charge different rates for those, you can. Same thing here. If you want to charge a different rate for delivery type, if you're a multi-location account, this is what this location one will be for. Now, if you can avoid doing these conditional prices, that would be better. But if you really need them, this is an option. The reason I say if you want to avoid it if you can is because it just makes the setup process a lot more complicated. But it's useful to know that it's there. Okay. We added this really cool feature called automations to this Office upgrade here. And so you can find that under automations. The first step, well, let me explain the basics of it. So the idea here is that you can kind of like the auto emails that'll go out, like we have auto emails that can go out a year after their event saying, hey, do you want to book with us again? We'll have stuff that go out and say, hey, you forgot to sign your contract. You know, here's a link to it. So we had to build those things specifically in our system as features in the email. So we added this automations one to give you even more flexibility. So this will allow you to do all kinds of things like send out any email based on any filter condition, or send out, let me hit add here and I'll show you the possibilities. So you can apply any filter you want to it. So like I was showing you earlier on the filters, you can filter by things like book date or customer's name or all kinds of stuff. So you can have any selection of customers that you want to be included in this automation. And the actions that you can set up to take place if they meet the requirements is you can either charge their credit card, like if they still owe money, you'd make a filter that says they still owe me money. It's 3 days away from the event. Let's charge the card for their balance due. You can have it send out a specific email. You can have it text them. You can change the statuses. So again, we have a lot of this stuff built into our status system where once they sign and pay the deposit, the status can automatically upgrade to a confirmed status. And when the event date passes, it'll automatically switch over to completed status. Well, if you want to write some functionality in here that we didn't think about for your business, this is where you can do that. Now you can say, well, I added a custom field to say payment due date. And if they haven't paid by that date, I'm going to downgrade the status into a non-reserve status. You can do that through here. This set field one is for optional fields. Well, anything that's included in here. If you have optional fields you've added, they'd be at the bottom. But again, if you have a filter that says when the address is park, maybe you have an email sent to your sales rep saying, hey, we got a park, you know, make sure you ask if we need to bring a generator, or whatever scenario you want to create, you can do that through here. There's a couple examples down here, I think, for charging a balance the day before the event. I'll give you an example. Text and email the customer the day before the event, downgrade the status if the deposit's not paid. So those are some examples I created that would explain it a little bit. One thing to remember, avoid activating it until you're all done setting it up. We also, when you activate a new automation, we approve it, so it won't run right away. You might take us a few minutes to review it, plan on it being a day before it actually starts running, because we want to make sure you don't accidentally, you know, tell the system to mark all your confirmed events down the quote or something like that. So cool. So there's a lot you can do here, and I'm just kind of brushing the surface of this. So again, you can always reach out if you have any questions. But again, I would just use caution on this one. You don't want to do something you didn't intend. All right, let's go over optional fields and damage waiver. So I mentioned optional fields a few times. That's here in the settings. I'm going to use damage waiver as an example here. So you can add a new optional field. You can add anything you want. This is something that you can have as part of the event. So we'll say it's a checkbox. Right, so now when I go to a lead, optional fields, I'll now have this option to choose damage waiver. So we want to also have it charge a fee. There'd be potentially, you could add other things on here like, are there elevators? How many stairs do I have to climb? Do you, have multiple circuits or whatever things you want to do on here? Payment due date, you could add those. But we're going to make this one automatically add a 5% fee. All right, so I'm going to need to go to promotions and fees. We'll add a new one here. We're going to call it damage waiver. It's going to be a fee. We want it to always be valid for any dates, any delivery types, but I only want it to apply when they got the damage waiver checked. This was the optional field we just created. I have to say always apply, basically, if they rent $1. Okay. And then we're going to say they have to pay a 5% fee. So from here, we can say if it's 5% on the rentals subtotal or the total of the event or whatever thing you want to come up with, but we're going to do 5% on the rental total. It's always taxable. We're going to always have it recalculate, and other fees can apply, not just this one. Okay. So now, as your sales process, you might say, all right, do you want to charge a damage waiver, 5% fee? If they say yes, you simply check the box and save. And then under the event details here, we'll get a line item here for the damage waiver, which is going to be 5% of that 972. So it's a great way to increase your revenue, and that's how you do it. So like I said, there's lots and lots of flexibility in all these things I went over: filters, reports, optional fields, automations. You can basically get the system to do almost anything you want. So if you need some help, we're happy to help you. Just email support and we'll walk you through it. But otherwise, this will hopefully get your brain juices flowing. And I haven't seen any comments here. Wait, here we got one from Maurice. Yes, auto charging cards, you have to use OpenEdge to be able to do that one at the moment. So I'm not sure if we'll add other ones to it, but at the moment, that's the only one that we support with it. Okay, I'm gonna also go over our email system a little bit more. This is one that's a common need. So you can set up automated emails here under Email Center. We have a lot of examples already in here. So you can change this type here to automatic, and then you'll see all the possibilities. So on this account, on this demo account, most of these are already active, but most likely on your account, if you haven't activated them, they're going to say no here. So for example, right here, this one, customer send contract reminder after contract sent. So you can come in here and say, I want to activate this. It's going to send out 14 days after the customer sent customer their contract to sign if it hasn't been received after it was first sent to them. So if you're going to send a contract and say, hey, you need to sign this, and they still haven't signed it, this email will automatically go out after 14 days. You can lower this. If you want to make multiples of them, you can save a copy of it here and give it a different send number here, and that way they'll get multiple reminders. You can customize all the content down here. So like I said, this is an example of one that is pretty common, so we set that up for you. But you could use the automations to create your own scenario as well. So these ones don't require you to make a filter and make an automation. You just have to turn them on, and it's already ready to go. You can also, if you want to avoid the automations part and just use these, you can add filters to these as well. So you could say that I want this event reminder, this particular event reminder, to go to my commercial customers. And then I want to make another copy of it and have a different version go to my residential customers or something like that. And so you'll see here we got restrictions. And so you can add a filter to it to send out different emails as well. So again, all this can be accomplished through automations, but it's probably a little easier to do it through here. Yes, and so this email tool as well is for sending manual emails. So you can send an email by clicking it, typing in the email you want to send it to, or the customer name. Here it'll search. So if I'm going to send it to Bill Winters, you could choose any of the templates. So you know, you can create your own manual emails in that email center. The type would be manual, and you can say, okay, here's the one I always want to send out for when they need to sign a contract or when after we've received the contract. And so whatever processes you set up for your company, you can create whatever your standard emails are that you want to have go out regularly. All these different variables will get replaced with the proper phrase when it actually sends. So normally you won't use it when you're on a settings page like this. You'll be using that email tool while you're on a lead, and then we'll know which lead we're sending it to. So for this first lead here, Josh Groven, if I click the email tool now, it'll automatically be populated with his email address. And so when you send the contract, then it'll have a link to this contract assigned. So I got a few more questions I'm going to run through here. Harold says, would you use the automation to have returning tax exempt customers show as exempt on future bookings? So yeah, the way our tax exempt stuff works currently is it's based on the lead, not the customer. And so that is often a problem, is if they book with you next year, it's not going to be automatically marked as exempt. So potentially you could. The main thing that's kind of tricky with these automations is that they run on a schedule, like every 15 minutes or so. So you might make a lead. Well, let's say, for example, you want it to modify a fee or change the status of something. Well, when it first comes in, it's going to be the way it is, and then the automation will run and change the lead later. So it's not like the damage waiver we saw where it showed up immediately after saving. So it just takes a little process. So yes, technically, Harold, I think you could do that, but it wouldn't be instantaneous when you create it. Now there's a chance we'll eventually move the exempt fields to the customer records and solve that whole issue. But yeah, it's a good thought. Charlotte asks, is there a way to print our inventory list? It's a good question. That's something people always wanted. Let me take a look. Looks like yes. So you can check all of the items here. You may have to scroll down until they're all loaded, I believe. And then you can check this box. It'll check all of the items. And then over here on the print button, you can export the CSV. So this will export everything that's in the inventory list, including accessories. So if you want to only include certain things or certain categories, you would want to filter first. So this would exclude all the accessories if I chose rentals, for example. All right. So that'll be it for today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll do some additional trainings here coming up. I don't have anything on the schedule yet, but we'll let you know. So thanks for your time, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.